St. Kitts. Good evening, Nevis.
It is a historic moment for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Special good night to those radio listeners, those viewing on television, and those following us via the internet.
And one of the things that I would like to see established in the CPL here in St. Kitts, as we can recall, the many entertainers, Gravy from Antigua, you had King Dial from Barbados, and a few others further afield.
Cricket World Cup 2007 proved that we are ready for the big league. Hello and welcome to tonight's edition of the Roundtable. I am your host, Clement O'Garo, and again I take this opportunity to welcome three important brands to our Roundtable: St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, the region's leading financial institution and home to all, of course, of your personal needs. National Caribbean Insurance, provider of life, health, auto, dental, property and vision insurance, and Digital Security Services, who provides security, convenience, and control. Our discourse will highlight diabetes in the Federation. The esteemed guests that has consented to join me tonight are Nurse Christine Watley, President of the St. Kitts Diabetic Association, Pediatrician Dr. Ian Jacobs, Internal Medicine Consultant Dr. Terence Drew, and diabetic patient Mr. Earl Clark. Viewers and listeners are also asked to join in the discussion later in the show. Let's get started on tonight's discussion. However, before we say anything further, we'd like to take a break and to say thanks to all of our sponsors for coming on board for the Roundtable.
National Bank presents its Christmas loan offer. Borrow up to $15,000 for all your shopping needs this Christmas. This offer is valid from November 1st to December 24, 2014. Call us today to make an appointment. National Bank, endless possibilities.
Explore the history of St. Kitts with a visit to the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park. This 42-acre complex of fortifications has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Upon entering the fortress, you can choose to visit the gift shop and orientation center, where you can purchase unique, high-quality items at duty-free prices. Or you can look in on the Fort George Museum, which boasts a collection of military and other exhibits unrivaled in the Eastern Caribbean. The breathtaking view of Brimstone Hill includes the mountain range and a view of several other islands on a clear day, and of the Sandy Point Bay that the fortress once defended. Visit us and really experience the history of St. Kitts. This venue will also lend an indescribable ambience to your wedding or banquet.
Digital Security Services is the leading commercial and home security company in the Federation. They provide 24-hour monitoring and response to your emergency situations. Our services include surveillance and fire alarm systems and access control. We offer design, installation, monitoring, maintenance, and upgrade of our systems. Our certified and professionally trained technicians can customize your system to suit your specific needs. Contact us today for further information, consultation, or demonstration of our products and services. Telephone 466-4949 or email us at info@digitalsecurityskb.com.
The knowledgeable, professional, and friendly staff of NCI helped me find the solutions to secure my fleet of vehicles and, most importantly, my family. Let National make you and your family safe and secure.
What I really liked were the options that I was given and the knowledge behind the choices, and knowing that I still have the ability to choose and make my own choice and not feel pressured into selecting a different plan.
National Caribbean Insurance is fully committed to providing excellent customer service and a diverse range of insurance products and services. Come and experience insurance the NCI way. We serve, we protect, we satisfy. That's NCI.
Welcome back to the round table. And as I said, tonight we have an esteemed lineup of guests. And we're going to start with Nurse Watley. And I hope, you're okay with that name. We're going to start with Nurse Watley. And she's going to tell us all about the St. Kitts Diabetic Association. They're in focus here tonight as we try to provide information to the general public in terms of how to, and I don't know if we'll find out tonight if there's a way to prevent diabetes, but how to treat it and how to fight it. So, Nurse, tell us all about the group that you lead.
Good night, listeners and viewing audience. The St. Kitts Diabetes Association is a non-government, non-profit organization which seeks to create a better understanding among all people in this federation about the condition of diabetes, to empower all people who may have diabetes themselves or who are associated with people who have diabetes, to manage the condition, to improve the education and health services where they're sufficient. And they do this by, one, the development of and propagation of educational and training methods, the promotion of free exchange of knowledge with the respect of diabetes among physicians and health workers, the dissemination of reliable information about diabetes to persons with diabetes and the general public, to create awareness of the importance of early diagnosis of the condition and the need for medical supervision and control. The organization of seminars, information sessions, and lectures for persons with diabetes and other interested persons, and the dissemination of the latest research findings to all interested persons, just to name a few. The history of the St. Kitts Diabetes started 27 years ago when the then Nutrition and Surveillance Officer at the Ministry of Health, Mrs. Naomi Farrier, traveled to Trinidad on a nutrition workshop. And on her return, because of the information that she got there, she decided that they had to come together to form the Diabetes Association. And that is how it was formed. The first president was the late Mrs. Carmen Hanley. She was the pharmacologist at JNF. Then Sir Fred Lamb. A third one was a Miss Hanley, another Miss Huggins. The immediate past president is Merle Liebert, and your humble servant is the present president, the now serving president of the St. Kitts Diabetes Association.
Thank you very much for that introduction. And as we see, you have a body of work that you do. We're going to get into some more of that a little bit later, where I'm sure you'll be able to tell us of some of your successes, challenges here in St. Kitts. I'm going to go to your right and speak to Mr. Earl Clapp, who is a diabetic, and I'm sure he has a lot of experience that he's going to share with us tonight in terms of how we deal with a situation once it's upon us. Good evening, Mr. Clapp.
Good evening, charming ladies and handsome gentlemen and viewers to this program. I could remember for a long time that the fairer sex complimented me on my sweetness, but I did not know that I was diabetical diabetically sweet. You know, I always heard my grandmother say that she had sugar. And I just took it for granted that she had sugar. I am a person who trained a lot of teams, football, cricket, netball. And I noticed that at mornings when I got up to do the exercises, I felt lethargic, you know, lazy, don't want to put up my hands and move my feet for the exercises. And so I went to Dr. Laws, and you know, I explained my feelings to him, and he told me that it sounds like I have diabetes. So I said, no, man, I take exercises. And he tested me, and then he discovered that I really had diabetes. And he said that a man like you take exercises every day. How come you have diabetes? So I said, I don't know. And then we start discussing my situation. He wanted to know if I had any family who had diabetes, you know. And I remembered the days when my grandmother used to talk about sugar and how she used to be sweating and how she used to be feeling hot at all times. And then it was a shock to me, and I had to readjust my lifestyle. You know, I liked white bread, you know, and I had to start cutting down on my white bread, and a lot of sugar cane. I had to stop sucking the sugar cane, and you know, I had to change the lifestyle of my lifestyle and adjust to the fact that I'm now a diabetic. And it was not something easy to do, because, you know, you have been living for about 60 years of your life, pursuing a certain lifestyle. And then all of a sudden, you know, you are confronted with the fact that, boy, you have to change. And you would still have the cravings, even though you have to make the adjustments. You still have the cravings of 60-year cravings, like you see sugar cake and you want a bite, and you see somebody walking with a nice piece of sugar cane, and you want to peel the sugar cane and eat it. Now, one of the reasons why we are told that black people especially have diabetes is because of our starchy foods. But our starchy foods ring back to the days of slavery, you know, when we worked from sunrise to sunset. And in order to keep us working that long, we were fed with nothing but starches, breadfruit. Those of you who remember Captain Bligh on the Mutiny on the Bounty, the breadfruit was introduced into these parts of the islands. And so that was part of our diet. And then you had the yam and the tanyas and the dashins. And they were full of starches. But even when we were so-called liberated or emancipated, we still continued eating our starches, because even though the chains and the shackles had been taken from our wrists and our ankles, we still had to work sunrise to sunset. And the only thing we could have eaten after working those long hours was either rice, yam, tanya, dashin, eddos. And so we continued eating the starchy foods. As our lifestyle increased, you know, better wages and better housing conditions, we diverted from our traditional starches, and we went to the fast food places, you know. But let me backtrack a little, because the foods which we ate were cheaper to buy. Like if you have a big family, you buy rice and you cook rice. Maybe you might put some greens in the rice. Maybe you might put some black-eyed peas in the rice. And you had a mountain of rice and a little piece of pig snout on that mountain of rice. But perhaps what enabled us to overcome diabetes in those days was lack of transportation. We did not have any transportation where we could jump in and say we're going into town and come back.
Or cell phones as well.
We had to walk. You know, people who lived in Sandy Point walked to Bastille. People who live in Monkey Hill working at the sugar factory had to get up early in the morning and walk from St. Peter's to the factory and walk back. And so we were able to eat up, burn off, the starches that we ate. Now, when I was a little boy sleeping on the floor, and we ate supper at sometimes 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the night. But we did not eat and go to sleep. We went to play hoop, and we ran up and down the place, and if it was moonlight, we played London Bridges. And London Bridges would take us from Newtown right down perhaps to the gardens, and London Bridges come back. And so we were able to burn off the lot of starches that we ate. We played cricket or bat and ball. We played football with a soft breadfruit. And, you know, we were active. And if your mother sent you out, she would say, I'm spitting on the ground there, and you make sure you come back before that spit dries up. So you ran to town, you made your messages, or you bought whatever was to buy, and you rush back. So, you know, you're always on the go, burning off the excesses. But today our lifestyle has changed. And you know, we don't exercise enough. We are not active in our movements. We don't play London Bridges anymore. And so when we eat the lot of starches, it stays there without being burnt up. And so we have diabetes.
All right. Well, that's a lot of information for us to go on. I mean, taking us back to the days when the gym was natural outdoors. I'm going to go now to Dr. Drew, Dr. Terrence Drew. And I know we've started to talk about the Diabetic Association and, you know, hearing it from the patient's perspective. But what is diabetes for people out there who, I mean, you know, are not sure what we're talking about tonight?
First, let me say good night and to all those who are listening, and welcome to this excellent program. I think it is timely, and I hope that the information that is shared tonight would benefit people and improve health personally and in our federation on a whole. Diabetes mellitus, that is basically what it is. There are different types of diabetes, but we talk about that one that is associated with sugar. There's something called diabetes insipidus, which is a different type of diabetes. But the one we're dealing with is the one that has to do with the metabolism of sugar, starches, and proteins and fat. So it's defined as a group of metabolic diseases characterized by hyperglycemia resulting from defects in insulin secretion or insulin action or both. So they are diabetes. And the one that I want to concentrate on is what we call diabetes type 2. I think Dr. Jacobs would concentrate a little more on diabetes type 1 because it is more often diagnosed in the young or in the juvenile age. And basically that's exactly what it is. So when would a doctor tell you that you have diabetes? How would a doctor know that you have diabetes? Well, basically I think Mr. Clark set the stage, and he said a few things that are important. He said he felt weak and lethargic. And there's some people who come down with symptoms, including what he said. And all they might have is blurry vision, they might have weakness, they might have what you call polydipsia, where they drink a lot of water. Just drinking water and the thirst is not being quenched. They would have polyuria, where they're just constantly urinating. They get up at night to urinate, they urinate during the day, constantly. And they themselves would recognize that this is abnormal. Also, they can have weight loss, and they cannot account for the weight loss. It means that they lose weight doing absolutely nothing. I know that would be a dream for a lot of people.
Including me.
But if that were to happen to you, I think that you should get concerned and you should visit the doctor to find out what is the cause of your unaccounted for weight loss. And so all these can lead to one thinking about diabetes. But then there are some specific tests that must be done. I can speak about a few of them very quickly. I think that our population is well educated and is now at a stage where we can start talking more specifically to these diseases. So if you go to the doctor and you have all these symptoms and you do a test and your blood sugar is equal to 200 or above, and the doctor say, well, you might be diabetic. If you have this test that is high without symptoms, it might be repeated with a different type of test to confirm it. The other way that a doctor can do it is what you call an oral glucose tolerance test. This is where the doctor would send you, and you'll be given something very sweet to drink, about 75 grams of sugar, and then your blood would be tested after that, or the fasting glucose test. And if it is 126 and above, then you are considered diabetic if you have symptoms. If you don't have these symptoms, they might repeat it to ensure that this is actually a high result. And so these parameters, and a new one that came on the scene is the hemoglobin A1C. There was some discussion whether or not it can be accepted as a means of diagnosing diabetes. And I think to a great extent it is being used, especially in Britain, and I think the Americans might be coming on board to accept it as a means of diagnosis. And you are considered diabetic if you have a hemoglobin A1C of 6.5 or greater. On one occasion, if you have the classic symptoms that I previously mentioned for diabetes, or if it is to be repeated, or use another test that I mentioned previously to diagnose you with diabetes. So in a nutshell, that is how a doctor reaches the diagnosis of diabetes, looking at the symptoms, probably, and risk factors, and doing these specific tests to define you. But there are some people who are not actually diabetic yet. They can be what is called pre-diabetic. And this is the stage where I think intervention can be the only measure and can help to prevent diabetes in the future, and it is very important. But I think some of the risk factors are what people need to concentrate on so that we can deal with them effectively, so that people can know I'm at risk and I need to do everything to prevent myself from becoming diabetic. And that means getting regular checks. So let's take the example of Mr. Clark. I knew Mr. Clark for a pretty long time. He was always fit. I remember him as a referee coming to St. Peter's refereeing game. I never remember him being an obese patient. So when I heard that he was diabetic, I was very shocked. But he mentioned something that was very important, and that it ran in his family. And we know that diabetes type 2 has a very high genetic component. So if you have a first-degree relative, a lot of second-degree relatives in your family who are diabetic, then you might be at risk, and you need to check earlier, and you need to check, I would say, more frequently, and not take it for granted regardless of your size, your weight, or your fitness level. The other thing is, most important, obesity. I think that the obesity epidemic among the youth in the Western world, and especially in North America, and we are considered part of the North American continent, and I think that we need to really stem this obesity epidemic. And I think Mr. Clark touched on some important points when he talked about the starches in our diet, the simple sugars. We no longer eat the complex starches, but I think our diet now is filled with processed carbohydrates and simple sugars, and these are very, very, very dangerous. And they can actually lead to obesity, which is a very high risk factor, the most important risk factor for diabetes. And obesity is considered having an increased body weight or your body mass index of 30 or above, and is accounted for by body fat. If you are a muscular person with pure muscle, you might be overweight, but you're not obese, because that overweight is not as a result of fat, it's as a result of muscle. So that's a difference. So if you know you don't have all that muscle and you're overweight, then most likely you're obese. And females in St. Kitts, especially those who would have left school, the incidence of obesity can be as high as sometimes as 50%. And you can check it for yourself. You know, we call it big bones and we call it a lot of different things, but we must understand that a lot of our females especially are obese, and this is a risk factor. Other risk factors, as I say, is the genetic sedentary lifestyle. Mr. Clark touched on it again. He said that when you were young, you participated in a lot of games at nights, and this helped to burn sugar. But now our people now are on the phone, video games, our children are not getting enough exercise, and as a result, our obesity rate, and that itself, but sedentary lifestyle itself is a risk factor for diabetes. Another common one people who have gestational diabetes. Your blood sugar might have gone up during your pregnancy, and you're like, oh, I don't have sugar. My sugar just went up a little bit during the pregnancy, and since I gave birth, my sugar is now okay. But that person is at a lifetime risk, high risk of having diabetes or chronic elevated blood sugar. And so we see, without getting into the more complex things, we see that lifestyle, getting up, exercising, having a good diet, maintaining a good body weight can help to prevent diabetes. It's as simple as that. And for now, I'll leave it there and give somebody else a chance to talk, and we'll enjoy a discussion further down with some more information that I'll share with the public.
All right, Dr. Drew, thank you very much for that. We're now going to go to Dr. Jacobs. Until recently, the common type of diabetes in children and teens were type 1, which is also known as juvenile diabetes. But it seems as if that it's now moving towards type 2. What's going on with our children?
Good evening, listeners and viewers. Good evening, fellow panelists. Diabetes is something we tend to associate with older people. And when you hear that a kid is diabetic, to a family, it really is a big shock, and it's not something you expect. As you pointed out, Mr. Garrow, because of what Dr. Drew pointed out, and Mr. Clark pointed out earlier, because of the obesity, which is so rampant throughout our lives, that is what is pushing a lot of kids into diabetes. You find that, and it's not only kids, because most obese adults were obese teenagers, were obese young children, were obese babies, and all of us love to see a fat baby. We do know that many fat babies will lose their baby fat, but a lot of those babies who are fat, and we're so proud to see jolly and can't lift them up, these are babies who will end up to be obese children and adults, and so they not only feed into diabetes in childhood, but also into diabetes in adulthood. So, as Dr. Drew pointed out, the problem of dealing with obesity is really a number 1A health problem we need to deal with here in the Caribbean, not only St. Kitts, because it really is a big problem, and if we don't deal with it, we're going to pay the price for it much later down the road. And because obesity is somewhat preventable, it's not easy to prevent it because it's a whole lifestyle thing, which we've already started to discuss. It is important to deal with, right? Because it's something we can, it is one thing we can address. But in all fairness, even though obesity increasing is an important cause of diabetes in kids, and the more we have obese kids, the more it is going to be a problem. Still, in St. Kitts and Nevis, and throughout the world actually, most of the young diabetics we see are type 1 diabetics, right? And even the type 1 diabetes is increasing. Unfortunately, whereas in type 2 diabetes, which is common in adults, obesity is a thing which we can try to handle, even though, as I said, it is hard. There are very little stuff you can do to affect the incidence of type 1 diabetes, because that is complex in that when you get type 1 diabetes, what basically happens is that your pancreas, which is the organ in your belly which makes insulin, it's attacked by your own body, and the cells which make the insulin are wiped out. And because of this, you have no insulin, you can't utilize the carbohydrates you eat, your blood sugar rises, and even though it rises, it can't get into the cells for your cells to use it. And so your cells starts burning fat, which produces ketones, which cause a lot of problems. So the destruction of the pancreas by your own body is called a sort of autoimmune disease like lupus and these other things in which your body attacks its own, immune system attacks its own parts of the body itself. It's nothing we can really fix. I mean, most kids who have type 1 diabetes have diabetes, don't have any family members who have diabetes. It just comes out of the blue. And there's nothing really can pinpoint, hey, your grandfather had it, your mother had it, X had it. I mean, once you have type 1 diabetes, your chances of other people in your family having it are greater. But almost all kids who have type 1 diabetes don't have a family history, which is what is so devastating to families, because, boy, it's just like a shot out of the blue, and it's so hard to deal with. And you have a kid who was, most of our kids, we see maybe between 1 and 3 new cases of diabetes here a year, and the trend is increasing here as throughout the world. And if there's no way to predict who's going to happen to, and for a family to have this, to have a 9-year-old child, an 8-year-old child, 13-year-old child who was living a happy-go-lucky life as a child, now have to deal with blood tests, injections, lifestyle changes, can't be like the rest of the kids them. That is really a devastating blow and takes a lot of adjusting to. And whereas in bigger countries where you have many, many more cases, you can have a grouping of kids who have the same problem. Here we don't really have that luxury, because this year is 1 or 2 or 3, and 1 is in Sandy Point, 1 is in Sadlers, and so this sort of, these guys often feel just they're on their own, which makes it so difficult to deal with. The district nurses are wonderful, and we try to, with the doctors and the nutritionists, try as much as we can to keep these kids on the straight and narrow, but it is really very difficult. And because, as I say, it's something out of the blue, it is really a big, big challenge.
Okay. Well, Nurse, sounds like you have a lot of work to do with the St. Kitts Diabetic Association. How are you dealing with some of the stuff that, we've talked about? We talked about the elderly in Mr. Clark's case, then we talk about the children as well, now moving from type 1 to type 2. What does this mean for St. Kitts? And I know we're going to get into numbers lately in terms of, what is our situation here in St. Kitts, but your organization seems to have a lot of work to do. How are you guys coping?
We will have to cope. It is a challenge, and it has always been a challenge. But we have been looking at developing symposiums, training sessions to educate and to inform and to heighten awareness among the entire family. We're not leaving it just to the diabetic, but we are the person suffering from diabetes, but we are coming together, getting an all-of-society approach to deal with diabetes. We recognize that governments alone could never deal with this situation. It takes every one of us, every single one of us, to come together and see how we can face it, overcome the challenges, if we can overcome them at all.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go back to you, Mr. Clark. I know Dr. Drew, who is a young guy. He talked about you coaching football and cricket. But I know you're back in the day when, we used to hop what we call engine. Yeah. And you was the man who was preventing us from doing that. So very, very active. The question do I have though, how does one in your position, such prominence in terms of all the stuff that you're dealing with, cope with something like this that kind of, changes your lifestyle forever?
Well, when I was told that I am diabetic, I wondered, how am I going to deal with it, and I challenged myself. I like life, right? I'm always a positive person, and I had to adjust myself, and I had to tell myself, just like with my amputation, you know, I had to tell myself, well, boy, the foot has gone, but I'm alive, and I have to live, and I have to be an example for other people. And it's the same thing with diabetes, right? When the doctor told me that I was diabetic, it was, boy, how am I going to cope with this, you know, because I'm accustomed to eat this, I'm accustomed to eat that, I'm accustomed to go to that fit, I'm accustomed to go to that fit. And, you know, you have to see things, and as my grandmother would say, cut your eye. You know, there are things, but one of the good things about me is that I was an eater of fish only. So, you know, the chicken and the meat and the tree mutton and all those things there did not really affect me. But it's a challenge within yourself. It's a challenge within yourself. You know, when you see fellas guzzling down, you know, big plates of food and nothing is wrong with them. You know, and you're there trying to eat this way and eat that way, and you know, you have diabetes. But I must say that diabetes is a poor man's disease. To overcome that disease, it costs money. Because you know, you can go and buy a pound of rice and share it among 12 children. Half a pound of pig snout or half a pound of saltfish and share it among 12 children, and everybody is satisfied. But if you are a diabetic and you want to combat the illness and you want to live for a long time and you have to eat the right foods, it becomes expensive. The lettuce, the cucumbers, the tomatoes, not no pound of rice anymore, right? The cabbages, and sometimes these commodities are scarce, you know. And what do you substitute when you can't get these commodities, which are essential to assist you in battling the dreaded disease called diabetes. And I must say here that diabetes, I was looking at the Iranian news on the computer, and there's this professor who said that diabetes is a tsunami, and it is just as dangerous as AIDS, you know. And by 2020, so many millions of people would be affected by it. And so we have to become aware, and that is why I believe here in St. Kitts, you know, we have to start educating people. There should be some announcement on the radio every day warning people about the dangers of diabetes. You know, it's all right getting the compliments that you are sweet, but when you're diabetically sweet, that is very, very dangerous. That's a tsunami kind of danger. Right?
Okay, thank you for that information. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to come back to, you know, talk to both Dr. Drew and Mr. Jacobs about some of the treatment, and we're going to get into some of the technical stuff. I'm learning this stuff myself, so you guys have to be patient with me and guide me along the way. But we'll come back to the round table after we take a break and hear from our sponsors.
Brought to you by the Departments of Gender Affairs and Probation and Child Protection Services.
National Bank presents its Christmas loan offer. Borrow up to $15,000 for all your shopping needs this Christmas. This offer is valid from November 1st to December 24, 2014. Call us today to make an appointment. National Bank, endless possibilities.
Explore the history of St. Kitts with a visit to the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park. This 42-acre complex of fortifications has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Upon entering the fortress, you can choose to visit the gift shop and orientation center, where you can purchase unique, high-quality items at duty-free prices. Or you can look in on the Fort George Museum, which boasts a collection of military and other exhibits unrivaled in the Eastern Caribbean. The breathtaking view of Brimstone Hill includes the mountain range and a view of several other islands on a clear day, and of the sandy point bay that the fortress once defended. Visit us and really experience the history of St. Kitts. This venue will also lend an indescribable ambience to your wedding or banquet.
Digital Security Services is the leading commercial and home security company in the Federation. They provide 24-hour monitoring and response to your emergency situations. Our services include surveillance and fire alarm systems and access control. We offer design, installation, monitoring, maintenance, and upgrade of our systems. Our certified and professionally trained technicians can customize your system to suit your specific needs. Contact us today for further information, consultation, or demonstration of our products and services. Telephone 466-4949 or email us at info@digitalsecurityskb.com.
The knowledgeable, professional, and friendly staff of NCI help me find the solutions to secure my fleet of vehicles and, most importantly, my family. Let National make you and your family safe and secure.
What I really liked were the options that I was given and the knowledge behind the choices, and knowing that I still have the ability to choose and make my own choice and not feel pressured into selecting a different plan.
National Caribbean Insurance is fully committed to providing excellent customer service and a diverse range of insurance products and services. Come and experience insurance the NCI way. We serve, we protect, we satisfy. That's NCI.
Okay, welcome back to the Roundtable. To all our viewers and listeners, again, we say thank you very much for joining us on radio stations at IZ 96.1 FM and also Channel 5 on our TV. I'm going to go now to Dr. Drew, and these are some of the questions that I've come across in my research in trying to find out more about diabetes. Does a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes mean that a patient will have to go on insulin? And then, of course, there's the question of whether insulin, whether you can gain weight if you're on insulin or not. And, of course, you gain weight, but then there's the question of, okay, but you need to lose weight in order to, to manage. So it's kind of a roundabout there.
Yes, I think this is a very important question, because I think all diabetics, when people become diabetic, a lot of the things that they think about, first thing is, do I need insulin? They always ask, do I have to inject myself daily? For type 2 diabetes, especially initially, you would not need insulin. But there are some people who would have had diabetes for 20 years and they probably would not have known, 10, 15 years. And by the time you discover it, it's already complicated. And that means the same pancreas that produces the insulin would have burnt out. Because really in type 2 diabetes, initially the problem is resistance to the action of the insulin. The insulin is a hormone that is produced by a gland called the pancreas, which is situated in the belly. And this insulin is really a key that acts on a lock on your body cells to allow the glucose to go in. And when you become obese and for different factors, that lock doesn't work properly, and so the insulin cannot open that lock, and therefore it becomes, its effectiveness drops, and therefore you need a higher concentration, and so the pancreas start to pump more insulin into the blood in order to have the same effect. And therefore you have what you call hyperinsulinemia, where you have too much insulin in the body to help to balance the blood sugar. Well, over time, the pancreas burns out. It cannot last forever. And that is the point when you might need insulin. But initially, you do not need insulin. So you can have two types of approaches. You can have pharmacological approach. This is including medication, or non-pharmacological, which we call diet and exercise. Diet and exercise, the exercise especially is free. The sidewalks are free. The highways are free. I see a lot of people use them. You do not have to join a gym and spend money in order to exercise. And what we have found, that even 150 minutes per week, which means a half an hour a day, for maybe most days of the week, maybe 5 days of brisk walking, can have a tremendous beneficial effect on the metabolism of your sugar, which means to lower your blood sugar. And that does not cost anything except put on a pair of shoes and you walk 15 minutes one way and 15 minutes the other way. There are people who can swim. And I would like to also say that weightlifting is not contraindicated. If you are a diabetic, weightlifting, it can actually help, because what is found that the more muscle mass you have, the better the metabolism of your sugar. And a lot of the times when you exercise in muscle, you don't need insulin, and so it drops the amount of insulin circulating in your blood. That can cause a lot of problems. So putting on a little muscle, not bulky, but resistance training also help. And again, if you can't join a gym, you can do your own resistance training at home. And so these two things are very important, and diet is super important. I would say watching the amount of calories you eat is very important. The vegetables are very important. The type of starch, you can eat starch, but the type of starch is very important. Avoid simple sugars as much as you can. That means adding sugar to your tea, using sugar to sweet cakes and all these simple sugars, you should try to avoid. But if you do it, you should keep in mind that I ate some sugar now, and probably later I should cut something out of my meal. But the best starch are what you call the complex starch. Those ones, they absorb into your body over a period of time, so they do not shoot up your blood sugar. They just release. They have a very good glycemic index, and they just release slowly. These are the complex carbohydrates, such as the ground, the roots, and the provisions, which are better than eating the white bread. And what was found is that when we start processing starch and carbohydrates like the white flour and the white bread, that when we see the incidence of obesity go up, incidence of heart disease go up. So we know that there's a link between these processed food, obesity, and diabetes. And so I can say a diabetic can eat almost anything if they know how to watch their calories. What we have in St. Kitts, and we haven't started as yet, is to teach our diabetics how to count their calories. I think that's the next step that we have to take. That you tell them, you require maybe 1,800 kilocalories per day. How do I plan a diet? Including everything. So if I have a piece of cake now, I can have it later if I have a piece of bread now. So I don't think that there's a limit on anything that you can actually eat, even though I agree that a diet high in vegetables is the best. But you can actually watch your calories, and there are people who know it so well that they can do it down to the minor digits. I remember seeing a patient when I was in the US. He had diabetes since he was about 10, and he was 60, and he had no complications. So he lived 50 years with diabetes without any serious complications. And it's because he knew exactly how to control all those calories he was taking in. And when he exercises, how much he most likely burn and how to compensate. But I think as our people become more educated and they can use devices like smartphones and stuff, these can also be used to help to monitor our health. So you do not need insulin. And some diabetics may not even need diabetic tablets. They can actually lose weight, diet and exercise, and they can control themselves. But the first step, if that does not work and your doctor say your blood sugar is still high, or you do a hemoglobin A1C and it is above the level, they might say, let's start tablets. And you might start initially, the best tablet to start is metformin. A lot of doctors, they found maybe 50% not using it, and is a concern because metformin has been shown to be the best when it comes to type 2 diabetes initially if there's no major side effects from it. And if that doesn't work, then they can add another tablet. And if that doesn't work, you can add another tablet. But some of these tablets, the newer ones, we don't have them here in St. Kitts. They are very, very expensive.
I was just about to ask that question.
Even in the United States, they are very expensive. So we have the metformin, and we have the Deonil, and you know, those, what you call the sulfonylureas. And I think with these and diet and exercise, we are along our way. So, and if these tablets, they don't work, then a lot of times then the patient would have to go to insulin. Initially, sometimes just insulin once a day, maybe at night or in the morning, and sometimes you have to just put them on insulin maybe twice a day, or some people maybe 3 times per day. So you don't have to go on insulin initially. And I encourage everybody, regardless of whether you're on insulin or not, diet and exercise are still fundamental in controlling diabetes and averting many of its complications. So let's not get too worried. A person who controls his or her diabetes can have a fruitful life, a healthy life otherwise, and a long life. That is the good news. We have enough scientific information. We just want people to comply when their doctor would have given them the information.
All right, and Dr. Jacobs, I know we talk about food and how to control calories and stuff like that. And of course, we go to the supermarket, we see lots of people, you know, looking on the back of their the processed foods, which we shouldn't be eating, and counting calories. One question that I had though is, why is it okay to eat fruits when fruits are, you know, full of carbohydrates? I mean, are some fruits better to eat than others in this case?
Fruits and vegetables are really good for you. Some fruits have a high sugar content, but really, when you eat the fruit, the natural fruit, as a whole fruit, it comes with fiber and all sorts of stuff which we're really not sure of right now, which makes it so much better for you, so much better than drinking fruit juices. And let me just stick up in here. We tend to think that local drinks are the best, and I love my local drinks too. But and Christmas is coming, so sorrel is around the corner for me. But if you ever think about the local drinks, the sorrel, the ginger beer, the passion fruit,
sugar content,
they really soak up a lot of sugar, and so it's plenty of sugar in them. So even though we tout these things as being local drinks and good for you, for people of diabetes, and even for all of us really, they're having too much sugar. And another thing is, one of my favorite topics is the amount of food we eat. If you go to a restaurant in town to buy a lunch at any of the popular restaurants you might go to downtown as a working person, that can feed you twice. And if you don't, the thing is, if the guy doesn't put in all the macaroni and the rice and the, everything and the whatever else, you vex with them because there's not enough food. But really, one plate at almost any place in town is enough for 2 people. And it's really, we just have trained our guts to want so much food. And it's a really big problem. And Dr. Drew touching it before, we need to try and train people from their kids to eat proper things. But why? You can tell young people to eat dashi and eat yam and edo. They don't want to eat those things, and those, because they're absorbed so slowly, are the starters you should be eating instead of the pizza and I mean, a little bit of anything is not harmful, but these processed foods, they raise your blood sugar right away and are a big problem. But Dr. Drew mentioned this patient he knew in the States who was 10 years old when he had diabetes and lived to 60 years. I mean, often, as I said, the support systems are probably much better there, but kids figure they're going to live forever. They can't die. And so it is hard to tell a 9-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 13-year-old that he must do this, because if he doesn't stick to this protocol, 10 years down the road, he's going to be blind or his kidneys are going to fail. And that is the problem we have in pediatric diabetes, because it is so hard to get kids to see the future. We may sometimes get the parents to buy into it. And this probably is a good idea, good point just to mention. Often when kids get diabetes, it's something that the whole family just really can't deal with. And so they go and see the priest, they go and see the Obeah man, they go and see everybody because they want to deny this diabetes.
Everybody except the doctor.
And sometimes, it's quite often kids, when they have diabetes, they go through this thing called a honeymoon phase, in which their requirements for insulin will drop almost to nothing at all. And when this happens, everybody figure that the Obeah man and the priest have done their job. But we try, when this happens, not to stop insulin, because it just sticks in the parents and the patient's mind that diabetes is gone. It's always going to come back. And so it's really important that people understand this. And whereas in adult diabetes, early on, as Dr. Drew pointed out, we have the luxury of sometimes being able to do without insulin. Type 1 diabetes, which, as I said, is the most common form of diabetes in our children. If we've seen maybe 10 over the last 3 or 4 years, diabetics, maybe only 2 of them were type 2 diabetes, even though we have the obesity epidemic around the corner with us now. Still is type 1 diabetes most common in kids. And they just don't see that what they do today is going to influence their life tomorrow, and it's really very hard.
What is the difference, though? I mean, we mentioned a lot about type 1 and type 2. What is the difference, though, between both types of diabetes?
Type 2 basically have initially some pancreatic function, so they do have some insulin, right? Whereas the type 1 diabetes, which kids get, by the time they present, their pancreas has been pretty much shot and they can't make any insulin. I said it just comes out of the blue. It tends to happen in people who have the genetic predisposition to it. Nobody in the family has had it before. There are certain triggers which can bring it on in these people, like viral infections, and some people, it's pretty well established that cow's milk in some people who are predisposed to it can cause them to get diabetes. So it's not to say where all of us have drunk cow's milk from when we were small, so it's not to say anybody cow's milk will get diabetes, but if you have type 1 diabetes in your family, it makes sense to keep away from cow's milk. Also, what has been shown to predispose to it is the either too late or too early introduction of food. We tend to want to give kids real food to eat too early. Like the recommendation now is that they should not eat anything else but breast milk until they get to 6 months. But this is traditional to try and push stuff early on. And that also has been shown to lead towards diabetes, type 1 diabetes in people who are predisposed. And also, on the other hand, some people baby children too much, and kids who are not introduced to real food by 8 months, if they're predisposed to get that type 1 diabetes, they also are more likely to get it. So it's it cuts both ways.
I know, it's a pretty complex situation. Nurse, I'm going to go back to you in terms of what you guys are doing here in St. Kitts in the organization. In 2013, research has shown that there's about 382 million cases worldwide. What about our numbers here in St. Kitts?
Reported in St. Kitts, we have 1,136 diabetics.
Is that a lot or a little?
It's a lot. If our population is over 50,000 persons and we have 1,100 with diabetes, that spells what the percentage is, and that is really too much. And that has nothing to do with those diabetics who we don't know about, who are not being treated and who are in denial. They're not treated because they're in denial, and even when they are given treatment, they would not take it because they would say, you know, the doctors are really in diabetic, you know, but a little sugar because, and they have all the because, and then they don't really comply with the medication given, they don't comply with their diet, they don't comply with their general care, they don't visit the centers and things like that. So We have 497 in Nevis and 651 in St. Kitts.
497.
In Nevis and 657 reported cases in St. Kitts.
And we're going to go now to go back to Mr. Clark. And I mean, you is the man here who can give us the experience of having to live, you know, with the disease. How do you? And I asked already, how do you cope with it? And of course, we talk about a support system. Where does that support system come from for you? I know we do have the St. Kitts Diabetic Association. I'm a Diabetic Association? Diabetes Association. I want to make sure that I get that right. Where, I mean, does that support system come from for you?
Well, the support system, you have to be your own support system, you know, because, you know, I don't want to hit below the belt, but the Diabetes Association, you know.
It's a round table, but not a ring.
You know, the Diabetes Association, you know, I don't think they are outstanding enough. You know, their presence is being felt enough. You know, I think they should, they could go on the radio, as I said before, and you know, be aware of diabetes. It's a tsunami. You know, it is dangerous. I am a diabetic, but it is only lately that I realized the dangers of being a diabetic. Right? Oh yes, you have sugar. Boy, Clark, you're diabetic. But what it is to be a diabetic? You know, what feeling do you have? You know, and nobody came and nobody said, well, boy, you know, if you don't do this, this would happen to you, about your kidneys, and you know, and so forth and so forth. So you know, you have to learn along the way. Whereas, because it is such a dangerous disease, you know, it should be out there for every Tom, Dick, and Harry to know about, because it is a really destructive illness, you know. And I would like to say something about exercise. Too many mornings you see people walking, say they're taking exercise, their hands down to the side. I mean, if you're taking exercise for diabetes, it has to be brisk. It's no use walking from here to the Southeast Peninsula Road and coming back and that is not taking a walk for exercise. When you walk, you know, it's a brisk walk, right? The elbows must be going
so you have
down.
to exert some energy.
Yes, and it is better if you climb hills, you know. And you know, when you're walking, you must do the little exercise and, you know, build up the heart rate and so forth. But you're walking down with your hand to your side, and if you have a partner, you're talking about the latest gossips. You know, that can be exercise. And when you reach, before you start, you don't run out of your bed and take exercise or go for a walk. You have to loosen up first, right? And when you return from the walk, you slow down the heart rate and so forth. Stretches.
Spoken like a true football coach.
Yeah. but you know, people, and sometimes when I pass them, I say, man, pump your hands, man. Well, pump your hand, right? And they're not doing themselves any good by just walking with their hands down to the sides. You know, and one does not have to go, even walking, one can take a stick. All those people with a big belly, just put a stick over your shoulder and do 100 sideway bends every morning, and you could go in for Miss St. Kitts after a while, right? Or you can use the same stick and hold it wide and put the left foot back, bring it down, put the right foot back, and those are simple exercises you can do home. And I must warn the ladies. Sometimes I see ladies 5 o'clock, 4:30 walking by themselves, going all the way to Frigate Bay. Why not walk around town where you can see everybody and stop endangering yourself? Or take a stick and call me up if you don't know what to do with the stick, and I'll tell you what kind of exercises to do free of cost. And you will be safe in your home. You know, but you must exercise. And if you're going to exercise, you have to exercise briskly.
Okay. Well, nurse, Mr. Clark challenged you and the organization.
Mr. Clark, that's a good recommendation. We want to applaud you for that. You said you're not hearing much of us now, seeing much of us, and it appears as if we are not we're not supporting. We're not bashing here. Since we have taken office, we have been involved in the kidney screening initiative that took place in St. Kitts by the Caribbean Health and Education Foundation in March. And we have brought a number of the registered diabetics together and interface with them and let them say what they would want to have from us. Mr. Clark was one of the persons there, and he did not just say it here that he's not feeling us. He said it to us before. And we will ensure that we get in the face of the people. According to the Public Relations Officer, Dr. O'Loughlin, he always says that. The thing about it, let's take that World Diabetes Day is the 14th of November. We do not want to wait until World Diabetes Day to get involved in certain initiatives like screenings, etc. So what is happening is that there's going to be a week of activities that starts the 9th. And the Minister of Health will officially declare the week open. We'll worship at the, I don't want you all to come, we invite you all to come. In the place. And all of you persons out there, we want you to come and let us worship God together at the St. George's Anglican Church on the 9th at 9 o'clock. Then, so the week, we will be engage in educational sessions at the high schools because we are focusing on kids a lot this year, healthy living with diabetes, and letting not only the children know, but the parents know, and the society to know that healthy eating starts with a good breakfast, because I find that children don't take breakfast, parents don't take breakfast, and I don't know what breakfast has done, but if we start with a breakfast, it means that we'll be going someplace. So we'll be in the schools. And on the 14th, which is World Diabetes Day, we're going to be at the Independence Square with an outreach, doing glucose testing. But unlike the times when they stay in the square until 4, we intend to start at 9 and finish at 1. Reason being, we would not be able to get accurate blood sugar testing after that time. And then we will continue hitting at the workplaces, Mr. Clark, because the parents are in the workplaces, and ensuring that diabetes become not only a topic, but a lifestyle change, that persons would have lifestyle changes, because the Diabetes Association does what it is supposed to do to ensure that there's support for persons living with diabetes and persons who have families with diabetes. We want to engage teachers. Everybody must come on board. And thanks for the recommendation.
Okay. We got a lot of activities coming up, and of course, I know this information has to be disseminated somewhere, and you can depend on us here at ZIZ, we're the nation station. We like to make sure that folks get the information that they need. So now that we're in contact with each other, and we have the same last family name, we can make this work.
Yeah.
Yes, and you must say thanks to Mr. O'Loughlin as well, because he's been on my case for quite a long time. Yes. Okay, we're going to take a break on the round table. We're going to come back, and we're going to get some more medical information as to where we go in St. Kitts in the Federation with diabetes. We'll be right back.
Digital Security Services is the leading commercial and home security company in the Federation. They provide 24-hour monitoring and response to your emergency situations. Our services include surveillance and fire alarm systems and access control. We offer design, installation, monitoring, maintenance, and upgrade of our systems. Our certified and professionally trained technicians can customize your system to suit your specific needs. Contact us today for further information, consultation, or demonstration of our products and services. Telephone 466-4949 or email us at info@digitalsecurityskb.com.
Explore the history of St. Kitts with a visit to the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park. This 42-acre complex of fortifications has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Upon entering the fortress, you can choose to visit the gift shop and orientation center, where you can purchase unique, high-quality items at duty-free prices, or you can look in on the Fort George Museum, which boasts a collection of military and other exhibits unrivaled in the Eastern Caribbean. The breathtaking view of Brimstone Hill includes the mountain range and a view of several other islands on a clear day and of the Sandy Point Bay that the fortress once defended. Visit us and really experience the history of St. Kitts. This venue will also lend an indescribable ambience to your wedding or banquet.
The knowledgeable, professional, and friendly staff of NCI helped me find the solutions to secure my fleet of vehicles and, most importantly, my family. Let National make you and your family safe and secure.
What I really liked were the options that I was given and the knowledge behind the choices, and knowing that I still have the ability to choose and make my own choice and not feel pressured into selecting a different plan.
National Caribbean Insurance is fully committed to providing excellent customer service and a diverse range of insurance products and services. Come and experience insurance the NCI way. We serve, we protect, we satisfy. That's NCI.
National Bank presents its Christmas loan offer. Borrow up to $15,000 for all your shopping needs this Christmas. This offer is valid from November 1st to December 24, 2014. Call us today to make an appointment. National Bank, endless possibilities.
Okay, welcome back to the roundtable. Tonight we're discussing diabetes in the Federation. And of course we want you, the viewers and listeners, to join us as well. If you have questions, concerns, or additional information for us, you can call at 466-2666 to join the conversation tonight. Now I know we haven't really, we spoke about diabetes generally, and we haven't said, okay, it seems as if that we have our first caller. So let's go ahead and take this call and try to get as much in as possible. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, I am so impressed with this program. All of us, in some point in time of our life, will get sick during our lifetime. However, when it comes to Earl Clark, I want people in St. Kitts to understand the strength of this man. He has good intestinal fortitude. Being sick with Earl Clark does not keep him down. So I want to say to people in St. Kitts and Nevis, get Earl Clark number if you're sick with the sickness that he has. because his encouragement alone to you can remove it. This man has been an inspiration to my life from the time I met him. And I'm sitting here in my front room, looking at him and I'm saying, Lord, he likes looking at my father even though I don't have none. All Clark, big up to you. I am also impressed with the young Dr. Drew. And I want you to know, this is DuPont. I want you to know, young Dr. Drew, I am here in my front room, and I was so pleased with your explanation in terms of the way you're interacting with the people, letting them know about the eating and how important the exercising, letting them know in spite of the fact they might have been tested with whatever, they still have a chance if they do certain things right. And Dr. Drew, you're on the right track. Dr. Jacob, you too, at one stage in my life, I remember you saved my life one evening when I was very sick. I want the people in St. Kitts and Nevis to understand the type of person you are. Not everything they need to go to your office to ask you. They could meet you down the market on Saturday morning when you buy your vegetables and ask you some of the things they must buy to eat. And I was impressed with you, Dr. Jacob, when you spoke about these local drinks. We are putting too much sugar in our local drinks, yet people continue to say to me and others, local drinks are so good. The amount of sugar that I used to make a cup of tea with 5 years ago, I use quarter of it now. And what I try to explain to my wife when we sit down for breakfast, you might find your tea not so sweet this morning because I'm cutting down your sugar every morning as I make your tea. Get accustomed to the taste. Now, to young Dr. Joe and Dr. Jacob, with the experience that you all have, I want to go off to give somebody a chance. What are some of the encouragement you all can give to people explaining the importance of getting tested early and how often they should be tested? Because I believe a lot of the things that happen to us as human beings, we go on it late in our life. We do not like to go to the doctor. We must cut out that system about being afraid of us going to a doctor to check on ourselves. Remember, we will get sick some stage in our life. But the earlier we go to the doctor and have different tests, it will be better for us. And we have a lot of people who can encourage us, but young people in St. Kitts, hold on to the old man you see up there named Clark. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, caller, viewer. We definitely appreciate your patronage week after week. All right, we're going to go to our next caller. Good evening. Welcome to the round table.
Good evening. Thank you to the whole panel. I'm certainly enjoying this show tonight. And what I want to ask particularly is the Diabetic Association lady and Earl Clark. I'm not aware of how do I join the Diabetic Association. And plus, I need to know from Earl Clark, wouldn't he come out and help us? I am a diabetic too, and I take insulin twice a day, plus I take metformin, but I am overweight, and of course the doctors keep saying I have to lose my weight. Now I've reached a point where my knees are giving me trouble. I cannot do my walking. But I learned something from Earl Clark tonight, where he said about exercising even your upper parts. So will that be good enough? And if not, can he help us maybe as a group through the Diabetic Association, maybe if it's 1 day a week to teach us, and then we can go home and do it on our own. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to take the calls. Our guests are taking notes, and we'll come back and address some of these issues after. So, caller, welcome to the round table.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, in my capacity as the public relations officer of the St. Kitts Diabetic Association, I have to actually jump in now based upon a comment made by Mr. Clark earlier in relation to the lack of awareness.
Is this above the belt or below?
No, this is above the waist.
Okay, great.
No, he he made a good point in relation to the what he deemed to be the lack of information available in the media. But I would just like to let Mr. Clark know that we have requested, we have beseeched, we have pleaded with, we have begged for slots with some of our radio stations on a regular and frequent basis in order to propagate that information about diabetes and the issues and complications that are obviously and well known to many people by now, but for those who may not be aware of it, we want to continually sensitize the public. Unfortunately, we've gotten, in my opinion, lip service in many instances from the stations. I recently attended a meeting of the North American and Caribbean Association of Diabetic Associations in Barbados, and was able to learn there that many associations within the Caribbean have good programs organized on radio. For example, our nearby Montserrat, the Diabetic Association of Montserrat, they have a weekly program lasting 15 to 30 minutes where they sensitize the public on a regular basis, you know, so that at least people are constantly bombarded with that information that is so important to be able to enhance that knowledge base for the diabetics and give them those constant reminders. For whatever reason, and I guess Dr. Drew and Dr. Jacobs may agree with me, diabetes in its early stage really and truly has no uncomfortable symptoms. So there's not that, you don't have that reminder you will get, for example, associated with some other diseases where you have pain. So you don't have that reminder, even though you would have been diagnosed last month or month before last. But because you don't get that little choke now and again to remind you, hey, I need to go and exercise. So therefore, after starting off and going for that first week or two on the bypass roads for your nice walk, the first shower rain comes and you go to bed and decide you're not going to walk tomorrow, and then that 1 day break changes into a 1 week break, changes into a 1 month break. And so therefore, I am again pleading, and good that I have Mr. O'Gara in the limelight. So I am not going to be hitting him neither below the belt or above the belt. I'm hitting him straight in his palms. I'm telling him the Diabetic Association of St. Kitts is willing to be part of radio programs on a regular basis to be able to continually sensitize the public, to continually bring the information to the general public. We are ready and we are willing and we are able, only with a strike of your pen. I guess it would need that for us to present ourselves at any time, any place, to talk diabetes. So with that in mind, I would hope that answers Mr. Earl Clark's question, you know, which he said he was throwing below the belt, and at least it would make the general public aware of the fact that the Diabetic Association is not sitting down. They are out there, they're doing what they have to do, and we have many more plans. We have many more plans. I guess my president will speak about the mobile unit, which we recently put into action, starting in October last month. That was presented at the Caribbean Congress, and they were impressed with the idea coming from St. Kitts about instituting a diabetic mobile unit for those people who cannot, for whatever reason, attend health centers, probably by virtue of lack of funds, lack of family support, lack of transportation, and this is something that we are instituting right here in our small SKB. So therefore, I will continue to listen, and I will jump back in once the need arises. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Lachlan. Thank you very much for that input. And as you said, the pen has already struck. So I guess we'll have some more conversations, because this definitely is, I mean, it's a serious topic that we're dealing here with tonight. And it's also a serious disease. So we have to, I mean, you know, make sure that people are sensitized. And I can tell you here as the Nation Station, we're not going to be left out. Someone asked a question about joining the Diabetic Association.
To become a member of the Diabetes Association, first you must be a diabetic. The other thing is how to get in touch with the members of the Diabetes Association, we encourage persons to attend the health centers, the health center that is nearest to you, and register there as a diabetic, and then you can get to us. We have been operating temporarily. Numbers you can call the Public Relations Officer, Dr. O'Loughlin, at 465-3452 or 662-3452. The President at 466-1644. That's at work. That's at Pawxon. And on my cell line, it's 668-3261, or any other member of the St. Kitts Diabetes Association. We have been temporarily housed at the operating out of our cars, really, but we have meetings at the Red Cross building. Thank the Red Cross for ably facilitating us. But you can call those numbers and we will tell you how to become a member of the Diabetes Association. The other thing is that the caller spoke to being unable to get to different places, and just at the end, the middle of September, we had an offer from a reputable firm in St. Kitts who offered to help us with a nurse who they will pay from the 1st of October. And the nurse would go to the different homes where persons who are diabetics cannot access care physically at the health centers, and that nurse has gone around to most of the health centers and gotten first the names of the amputees and or persons who don't have relatives going into help. I mean, even though at our health centers we take care of the diabetics, somebody recognized it takes all of society to take care of the diabetics, and this company has come on board with the Diabetes Association to ensure that each diabetic is accounted for and cared for.
All right, and very important. If you guys want to jump in on any of the points that any of the callers raised so far, yes. Dr. Joe?
Yeah, Joe Paul, he stated his name. He called in and he spoke about how often you should be checked. I think that all adults now should have at least an annual general check, and part of that check should be testing to see if they have diabetes. But outside of that, those people who have the risk factors, those who are obese, family history of diabetes, who had diabetes or elevated blood sugar during pregnancy, sedentary lifestyle, I think that these people especially should ensure that they are checked even at least once per year. And I think that is very, very, very important that we do that. And so
encourage go to the health centers.
Guys, I know we want to talk, but let's see if we get this caller who's online as well. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Yes, good evening. This question is for Dr. Joe. Dr. Jacobs could answer.
Okay.
We have been hearing when the blood sugar is high, but I think you should give us the norm, because unless we don't know the norm, we won't be able to prevent what might happen. So the norm for adults and children, that would be all right. And for the nurse, Ms. Watley, to be a member of the Diabetes Association, you said you have to be diabetic. But we all know in healthcare, prevention is better than cure. So I think you should be encouraging non-diabetics to be a part of it, to prevent them from getting it in the future. Thank you.
Recommendation.
Right. Thank you very much for that information, caller. And yes, one of the other things that, and I think it was Dr. O'Loughlin who mentioned the fact that the symptoms of diabetes are not necessarily easily identified in the early stages. What are some of the things that, I know, yes, you can go and get tested, but what are some of the things that you can, I don't know, identify? Is there, or maybe I should ask the question, is there anything that you can, I mean, you know, other than the norm, anything that you can see, hear, feel, tell that says, you know what, maybe I need to check?
Well, the most common symptoms would be passing urine frequently, and after, sometimes people aren't sure if it's a cart or the horse. Drinking a lot of water. You need feed. You want to drink a lot of water to replace the fluids you're passing with your frequent urination, and that is probably the most common presentation. But I mean, sometimes people, because when your sugar is out of control, it alters your vision. Some people present with altered vision. So if you find that you have to change the glasses every minute, or you never wear glasses and all of a sudden you find your vision is really very poor, that might be how diabetes might present. But because diabetes is so, may not present at all, that's why Dr. Drew was stressing on testing, because there's one point in time where we used to look at 140 as a level to diagnose diabetes, but now we call it 127, and I wouldn't be surprised if down the road we even call it a bit lower, because we realize that the complications...
And that's the glucose level.
Yeah, sugar, right, glucose level. Because we realize that complications of diabetes occur when the blood sugar is above a certain level for X time, and when you wait until you get the fast urination, drinking a lot of water, losing weight, fatigue and so on, you have probably been diabetic for 10 years before. And that's why you find we've been lowering the cutoff point, which we call it, because we want to catch people before they have the complications.
All right, interesting debate. Let's take this next caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Yes, quick addition to my former contribution and in support of my president. In relation to membership of the Diabetic Association, we, of course, would like all diabetics to be members of the association, but we also encourage family members and relatives who are directly involved in the care of the diabetics for them also to be members of the association. So it obviously is not open only to diabetics, but also to include those people directly involved in the care. The reason for it is this: we are in the process of negotiating with a number of businesses around St. Kitts who would like to be partners with the association and making available some of the products which are considered healthy, the greens, vegetables, and so on, at a discounted rate, but this discounted rate will be available only to Diabetic Association members. So, and of course, obviously, they will not be making available the cakes and the soft drinks at the same discounted rate. So since our idea of helping the diabetics who belong to the Diabetes Association is involving, these contributing firms, we would like to encourage all diabetics and caregivers of the diabetics to become members of the Diabetic Association. At the onset, we were requesting that you go to Willett's photo studio and take your photo, and he has information there which would enable you to at least get that initial part of your membership established within the Diabetic Association. And further information will be relayed in a press release that we will be putting out pretty soon in relation to further membership requirements. So for now, diabetics and caregivers of diabetics, come on board. We would love to work with you, and we would love you to work with us. Thank you.
All right, thanks again for that information, Doc. Now, I know Dr. Drew mentioned earlier, the ability to lead a normal life still with, diabetes. And you mentioned probably someone in the United States, not the same here in St. Kitts. But what are some of the things that people can do to lead a normal life? Because, some of the times you hear, somebody has diabetes and next thing you know, there's an amputation or there's blindness, and all this stuff happens so rapidly. In terms of leading a normal life, though, what are some of the things that patients need to do?
I think that when one becomes diabetic, the first thing that one has to do is accept the fact that he or she is diabetic. I think that living in denial is not going to help. Once you accept the fact, I think it's important that you develop a close relationship with your healthcare provider. Not only in the sense of just giving tablets and medication, but I think diabetes need a wholesome approach. And that is why I would like to see all diabetics in St. Kitts somehow join a clinic. The reason why I say that, many diabetics go to the doctor, and the doctor say, oh, what you taking? I'm taking insulin and metformin. Insulin, 20 units, metformin, 500 milligrams twice a day. And sometimes the doctor might have 20 people outside in his hall, and he wouldn't go through all the testing of testing the feet and the nerve and the microfilament and all these things. And I think going to the clinic, what it does, it gives you a wholesome approach. Nurses test your feet, they look at you, they give you education, they show videos, they sit with you, they rap with you. I hope Mr. Clark goes to the clinic. All of this is available at our clinic, which I think adds to the whole key of diabetic. But I think you can lead a normal life. I think you have to understand and learn very quickly well about your disease. Do not allow your disease to define you. You know, you're a person who have a condition that needs control, and it does not have to define you or limit you. So what you want to do is educate yourself as much as possible. And then after that, you can go out and lead a life. You can exercise, eat properly, eat how you're supposed to eat, and make sure that your sugar is under control and you're following your regimen that your doctor gives you. Now, if you do all of this, watch your diet, exercise, educate yourself, visit your clinic, have a close relationship with your doctor, join the Diabetes Association, you know, talk to other people who have the same condition. Some people become depressed because of diabetes. Some of them need help. You might need help talking to somebody. Diabetes support group also help. All this put together can help you to lead a normal life, and you don't have to suffer the complications, because diabetes touches every single part of your body. It touches from your head straight down to your toe and everything in between. It causes stroke, causes blindness, causes loss of teeth, causes heart attack, causes gastrointestinal problems, where you can have dumping or you're vomiting frequently when the nerves are affected. It goes down, it can affect your sexual life, it can cause impotence, and is a very serious condition in men especially. And it goes down and it can affect your feet to the point where you can have amputations. And so what we have recognized is that if you control your blood sugar and you exercise and you eat well, we know if you control that blood sugar, you do not have to suffer these complications, and you can lead a normal life and enjoy life to the fullest. And that is why I encourage everybody. First, accept that you have a condition, get educated, get a relationship with your healthcare provider, join the clinic, join the Diabetes Association, and lead your life to the fullest that you can.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Drew. We have another caller on the line. We're going to take a few more calls, so if you're out there and you want to join us, 466-2666. I know you're a customer calling 465-2555 on the radio. If you're listening to us by radio, you'd have to call us in TV, though. Let's take this caller. Good evening.
Yes, a pleasant good evening to you, Mr. O'Garrell.
Good evening.
And your panel. This is Mr. Boyan.
Oh.
Special good evening to my good friend Noel Clark.
Thank you.
I want to ask the doctor, the two doctors, a question, because this has been an argument by a lot of people who suffer from diabetes. Can one go about, a diabetic patient go about eating 1 pound of sugar and feel they can drink 2 gallons of water and that's the order of the day? That's my question.
All right, Mr. Boyne, thank you very much.
My answer to the question is no. I mean, by the time you eat that 1 pound of sugar, your blood sugar would have spiked so much out of control. I don't think 2 gallons of water. And be careful. If you drink that water too quickly, you can poison yourself with water. It can dilute. I don't know if people are aware of that. I guess you can drink it throughout the whole day. But eating a pound of sugar is no recommendation. Regardless of how much water you drink, I don't think that can offset the effect of having a pound of sugar in a day. Trust me, if you're diabetic, your sugar might reach so high, you'll not be able to drink that 2 gallons of water, you might reach hospital. So I totally would discourage that, of course.
And not only for diabetics, I mean, sugar is unhealthy for all of us, really. And whether or not, surely if you're eating lots of sugar, it may eventually let you put on weight and lead to diabetes. But just of itself, we want to be getting people to just keep it from this sugar idea on the whole.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Jacobs. We have one more call. We're going to take this call, and then we're going to have everybody give their final wrap for the night. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
No, it's me calling back. The reason I just use, it's not actually, I just use the powdered sugar and the 2 gallons of water because some people feel that they can go and drink a Bryson and feel they can,
water it.
Oh, no problem by drinking a Bryson, man. I can go home and drink a lot of water. So I just use, the powdered sugar and 2 gallons of water as an, as an example, but not actually people would, do that.
I know you were joking, just following the joke that you were giving. But the point is...
Because I heard a lot of people, they always saying, I can buy 2 sugar cakes and eat and drink a lot of water. I can buy 2 Brysons and drink it and drink a lot of water. And I'm glad, the doctor, cleared it, cleared it up.
Right. That's not a good practice at all.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did say we were going to take just one more calls, but we have some people who are beckoning to come in. So we'll give them the opportunity. Thank you, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I am about 70, right? 70 years, and my sugar is normally in the 90s, right? But I do a lot of exercise. And lately I found that my sugar is down about in the 60s, 62, somewhere there. Is that a problem? Is that like low blood sugar, or it's something to do, I exercising too much or something like that?
The first question I would ask, are you diabetic or not?
No, my sugar never gets in that region about in the hundreds. Let me see. At one time, when after I ate something, it was checking 124. But it now reaching, say, 140 anyway up there.
I would think that you are fine, sir. You sound like a healthy 70-year-old.
Exactly.
Continue exercising.
So the 60s is no problem?
As long as it's not symptomatic, no, it shouldn't cause a major problem.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you again, caller. Let's go ahead. Let's go straight to the next caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Yes, good night. How are you?
Doing fine.
I'm listening to the program. It is a very good program.
Thank you.
You must tell all the diabetics they must always keep alcohol in the house in case they get a small cut. And not to walk barefoot.
Good point.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you. Very important information.
Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you. We're hearing you, caller.
You hear what I said?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks for that information. Do we have another call? Okay, so I wanted to ask this question because we talk about a lot about food and stuff like that. Balancing insulin intake with food and lifestyle. Maybe we should go to Mr. Clark with this question. How do I not eat the kind of fried chicken that I want to eat, or the upside down pineapple cake that tempts me so much when I go to the supermarket?
But, you heard Dr. Drew say that you can eat anything, but it must be done in moderation. And you must, when you eat, you must be able to test your sugar to see if it has spiked or not. And that is how you can keep control of the sugar.
How easy is the testing, though?
I think that's a good question for Mr. Clark. It's just a prick of the finger, and you have a glucometer, just a little machine that you just put a little drop of blood, and it can read it. Some people find it very simple. I have had patients who are afraid to prick themselves, even though it's a small. So I think that for each person, it varies. Some people are very good about it, and so others, no. And especially maybe Dr. Jacobs can speak towards the kids testing themselves.
Also, as Dr. pointed, it's just a little stick, and some parents have no problem doing it. Sometimes some of the parents are even more squeamish than the kids themselves and don't want to juke the child because they feel, the poor child, right? But why the control of diabetes is so important. And when you have an older patient who is lived a good part of their life before, and it normally takes about 10 years, we used to say, before you get the complication of diabetes, he or she has a lot. Suppose you have a 70-year-old developing diabetes. I mean, by the time the complications arise, he may well be ready to say goodbye soon anyhow. But if you have a child who is 8 or 12 who has diabetes, it is really important to get good control all the time. And the moderation which you allow diabetics a piece of cake or a piece of this is really a very small portion, right? On your birthday, you allow the kid to have a piece of cake, some ice cream, make him feel good, maybe once a month or whatever, depending on how good their control is. But they really have to understand they have diabetes and they have to live a different life, and they can't have this X or Y or Z, because it is so important to get them their sugar between those levels, because every time sugar goes up, it's damaging a blood vessel somewhere in the body, which is going to result in complications. And as Dr. O'Loughlin pointed out, you don't feel the complications when they're developing. It's only 10 years on the road when they really hit you, and you can't turn back. The problem is there.
Okay. Early in the program, Nurse, we did mention the how expensive it was. I think Mr. Clark mentioned it to deal with, to treat diabetics. And I don't know how expensive it is. But, I mean, is your association, in a position to help some of your members?
The association is in a position to. That's one of our reasons for existing. We can lobby with the pharmaceutical companies to give a cheaper rate on the glucometers and provide the strips for the glucometers. One of the challenges we have is that persons have glucometers but cannot get the strips to match them. Also, that just went away from me.
Yes, because I've heard that as well.
It's so important, because when you get diabetes, people call on the cousin or the auntie in foreign to send that glucometer for them.
And they get 6 meters.
But they can't.
Different meters.
We can't get the strips here. So it's so important to get strips which are available here, and to press upon people who do provide the glucometers here to make sure we always have strips.
Yeah. And so the Diabetes Association would really want to work along with the pharmaceutical companies to get, the strips available to the meters, and lowering of the prices for them. Sometime last year we had a company came in with some Sky Era glucometers. They gave a limited amount of strips. They're coming back here shortly to us again. It is said that one of the pharmacies has the strips available. We have been looking into that, and to ensure that our diabetics have the tools that would help them to monitor their blood sugars on a regular basis.
Some kids have to test their blood sugar 2 and 3 and 4 times a day, and the cost is so prohibitive.
Yes, it's exorbitant.
If we talk about diabetes management, just the strips is an important part of the care.
And as an association, we also, well, trust me, I'm doubly here, dual person here. As a nurse, I have a real passion for diabetes, and I like to know that my diabetics visit the center even twice a week, come in for the educational talks, come in and get your foot care, get your reference to take it to the eye clinic, get your oral care done, etc., etc.
How much does that cost?
Free.
Okay.
It costs something to somebody, but it's free to you as diabetics. So visit the health center nearest to you. Don't put your health center down. Yes, you must visit your doctor, but there's also a district medical officer attached to the health centers who would take care of our diabetics free of cost.
Okay, well, we're almost at that time of the night
there's a lady
when we say goodbye, but we're going to allow everybody to get the final shot. All above the belt this time, though. So we'll go with Mr. Clark.
There's a lady who called in. My number is 664-2700. And she can call on me at any time. Just make sure that when she forms the group, that each person has a mop stick. It's as cheap as that. Just a mop stick. Well, I think a mop stick costs $5. Just as that's your exercise equipment. A mop stick, and I'll come at any time and form the group with you. But you can't do it once per week. It has to be at least 3 times per week. And I'll show you the benefits of exercising in your home or in a building where the group of you can do the exercises together. I would like to inform all diabetics that if you're diabetic and you're going outside in your yard, whether it is morning, noon, or night, wear something on your foot. Because you see, when we get a prick outside, we go inside the house and we try our own remedies. And our own remedies end up in an amputation of the toe or toes and maybe the foot. Right? So if you're diabetic, don't walk around barefoot outside or even in the house, because you can pick up a pin or a needle or something, a sharp object in your feet, and you would not feel it. And the end result is that you could lose your foot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Very important information here tonight. We're going to go to Dr. Jacobs.
We tend to think that diabetes is something that only adults get, but kids get it too. And with the increasing amount of kids being overweight because of bad eating habits, which we train them in as adults, we're going to have much more, and lack of exercise, we're going to have much more obesity and much more type 2 diabetes. Again, just to underline that even though type 2 diabetes is increasing in kids, still type 1 diabetes, which requires insulin, is the most common form of diabetes in kids, and it is so important to make sure that they are well controlled all the time. It's hard for a parent to do it by himself. That's why the health centers, the nurses, the doctors, everybody, and nutritionists working together are important to try to keep kids under control, because if we don't get them under control as kids, they're going to have problems in their life with diabetes shortly down the road.
Thanks again for that information. And nurse, we want to hear from you and the St. Kitts Diabetes Association. I know you guys have been challenged a lot tonight. We've, of course, committed here live on radio and TV to come on board and assist you in getting the message out, because I think this is a very important message, hence our 2 hours here tonight. Nurse Watley.
I want to say thanks to those persons who have been supporting the St. Kitts Diabetes Association. We want to thank the executive. We are not the bosses of the Diabetes Association, we're the servants of the Diabetes Association. And I want to take this opportunity to invite all the diabetics who are able, and if you're not able, ask somebody to bring you to the St. George's Anglican Church on Sunday, where you will worship with the diabetics and the Diabetes Association. So the diabetics come, persons who have to take care of persons with diabetes come, and just don't leave us there. Follow us along the way. We have got great plans for you, and we want to make your life much better in our federation. A healthy life, a happy life, a long life, even with diabetes.
Thank you very much. And finally to Dr. Drew.
Yes, I want to thank all those who tuned in. What I would like to say in the last message is not a very complex one, but a very simple one. And this one goes to how do we prevent diabetes, and even when we are diabetic, how do we control it? And I want to encourage all of us to do some exercise. And Mr. Clark said at least 3 times a week. I might say 5 times a week. You can walk for half an hour, but brisk. You can swim, jog, whatever sports you might involve in, but get some physical activity. I want to also encourage us to try to get down our weight if we're overweight. Try to eat as healthy as possible. If we are smoking, let's cut out the smoking. Excess alcohol, let's get it out. Let's get enough rest. And what I'm really advocating here is a wholesome lifestyle that will not only help to prevent diabetes, but other non-communicable chronic diseases such as hypertension, heart disease, and all of these seem to have a link. And if you were to do all of this, and if you are diabetic, have a good relationship with your healthcare provider, follow the instructions, seek help, ask questions, and you can lead a happy and healthy life, even if you are diabetic.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Drew. This concludes another edition of the Roundtable. I hope that our discourse will assist decision-making as it relates to the deadly disease, diabetes, and we know that it can be prevented. We know that it can be treated, so maybe not as deadly as it used to be. Most of what we would have heard in tonight's show shouldn't scare you at all. It should encourage you to do the right thing. Get tested and treated early and often. Again, I say special thanks to our sponsors, St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, National Caribbean Insurance, and Digital Security Services. Also, I want to say a big thanks to all of our viewers and listeners who have sent us complimentary messages from as far away as Birmingham, England. Though diabetes is a long-term condition, it is certainly not a death sentence. And with the help of the St. Kitts Diabetes Association and the professionals who joined us here in the Roundtable tonight, we can and will fight to manage this disease. Thanks again for joining. Have a blessed evening.
Digital Security Services is the leading commercial and home security company in the Federation. They provide 24-hour monitoring and response to your emergency situations. Our services include surveillance and fire alarm systems and access control. We offer design, installation, monitoring, maintenance, and upgrade of our systems. Our certified and professionally trained technicians can customize your system to suit your specific needs. Contact us today for further information, consultation, or demonstration of our products and services. Telephone 466-4949 or email us at info@digitalsecurityskb.com.
The knowledgeable, professional, and friendly staff of NCI help me find the solutions to secure my fleet of vehicles and, most importantly, my family. Let National make you and your family safe and secure.
What I really liked were the options that I was given and the knowledge behind the choices, and knowing that I still have the ability to choose and make my own choice and not feel pressured into selecting a different plan.
National Caribbean Insurance is fully committed to providing excellent customer service and a diverse range of insurance products and services. Come and experience insurance the NCI way. We serve, we protect, we satisfy. That's NCI.
National Bank presents its Christmas loan offer. Borrow up to $15,000 for all your shopping needs this Christmas. This offer is valid from November 1st to December 24th, 2014. Call us today to make an appointment. National Bank, endless possibilities.
Good evening, St. Kitts. Good evening, Nevis.
It is a historic moment for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Special good night to those radio listeners, those viewing on television, and those following us via the internet.
And one of the things that I would like to see established in the CPL here in St. Kitts, as we can recall, the many entertainers, Gravy from Antigua, you had King Dial from Barbados, and a few others further afield.
Cricket World Cup 2007 proved that we are ready for the big league.